Dear friends, we continue our podcast exploring more about individuals and teams contributing to the transformation of our planet towards more sustainability. My guest today is Jeremy Lovey, the director of Solar Impulse Foundation for the Asia Pacific Division. Solar Impulse Foundation and its founders Bertrand Piccard and André Boschberg captured the attention of millions, especially when they flew around the world with a solar airplane. With 17 intervals, they flew across 4 continents, 2 oceans, and 3 seas, accomplishing this journey without a drop of liquid fuel, solely relying on solar power. Despite encountering technical challenges, the brilliant engineers and scientists on their team played a crucial role in overcoming obstacles, enabling Bertrand and André to achieve this remarkable journey.
Their plan was ambitious: to cross the globe in 17 legs over the course of a year, logging 25,000 miles.
It's a bit the moment of truth because you simulate, you calculate, you imagine, but there is nothing like testing and doing it in real.
We deeply believe that we can achieve impossible and incredible things with renewable energies, like flying around the world with no fuel. And if this works, of course, everybody can do it on the ground to make a cleaner world. And this can be your way to be with us in the plane.
After flight took place, the next step was to spread the message about the possibility of using renewables to drive our planet towards a sustainable future, and to support scientists, engineers, and companies developing such solutions worldwide. Definitely, Asia-Pacific region is one of the densely populated areas in the world where new innovations are being born every day and technologies are developed to progress many industries, including renewables. This might be the reason behind expanding the Solar Impulse Foundation to Asia Pacific Division. All the details we will explore during our discussion with Jeremy Lovey. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Hi, Jeremy. Thank you very much for coming to the podcast. I'm sure it will be very interesting for the audience. We'll discuss about the Solar Impulse Foundation and its projects and how you are leading the expansion of this foundation into Southeast Asia.
Hello, Baha. Thank you for having me. Hope it's going to be an interesting discussion for your followers. And for me, it's not that used to podcasts, so it's going to be an interesting discussion for me also.
Thank you. So let's start from the beginning of the foundation. So could you please explain the mission of the Solar Impulse Foundation and its main objectives?
Yes, so the Solar Impulse Foundation is a legacy project of a solar round-the-world flight that happened in 2015 and 16. So it was the first solar round-the-world flight in the world with a 72 wingspan airplane who did in 17 legs this round-the-world, started in Abu Dhabi. And the Solar Impulse Foundation mission is to accelerate the adoption of clean and profitable technology. To make it simple, the round-the-world flight mission was to showcase how clean technology can achieve impossible things, and the legacy project was to showcase that there were a vast amount of those clean technology available, and they were not only achieving impossible things, but they were also really profitable for business. And so the missions of the foundation was to showcase this profitability of the solution, and this has been going on since 2017, so it's been over 6 years now.
That's great. It's already a few years and a long journey ahead, right? So what are some notable, let's say, achievements or impact stories that the foundation has had in promoting clean and efficient solutions?
So I think one of the biggest achievement was after the round the world, the people working with me started building this foundation and this legacy project. And Bertrand Piccard, who was the chairman and the leading person of the entire foundation and the round the world flight, put us into a challenge to identify 1,000 solutions that were profitable and better for the environment. So that was a huge challenge back then because we had nothing. How do you go from, selecting solution? How do you make sure that this is something that is doesn't have ties to any preferences or just really proper selection? And so we built this foundation and this label we're going to talk about. And I think this milestone of identify 1,000 solutions were really the big one.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So this starting about 1,000 solutions, it started after the flight happened, right?
Yes.
Throughout the world, flight happened, and then next step was to work in that direction.
Yes.
Okay.
So if I make a long story, so basically that you've got everything. Bertrand Piccard in 1999 flew around the world with a hot air balloon.
Yes.
And that was the first non-stop round the world air balloon flight. Yeah. And back then there were a huge competition between different people to achieve this non-stop round the world flight.
Yeah. And I think I watched the documentary. It was very interesting.
It's cool. It's really cool. And so on his third try he managed to, and I think when he took off, he had like this massive, gas tank around the capsule of the balloon, and with the fuel. And the big challenge was back then to complete the round the world was to have enough fuel to just keep on putting hot air in the balloon to carry on the flight.
Right.
And when he landed back in Egypt, he almost had no more fuel. Like it was, I think, 20 kilos something on a 2 tons of fuel.
It was just enough.
It was close to nothing. And so the story started for him to then try to see how he could achieve another round the world, but this time without fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this whole idea of building a solar airplane took from. And the foundation is based in Lausanne in Switzerland. And in Lausanne, there's a polytechnical school called EPFL, which carry on the first feasibility studies back then, and it was 2003. So it took quite, university works. It took some time to build up the feasibility, then the research, then the team, obviously, then the financing of this project. Yeah. And so they built a first prototype of this solar plane, was actually exhibited at the Cité des Sciences in Paris. And then they built a second one, airplane, so Solar Impulse 2, was this big 72 wingspan airplane who managed to flew around the world in 17 legs. And so this flight happened between 2015 and 2016, this 17 legs.
Yeah.
And then on this big team of people who carry on this mission of pushing this flight, a few of them started then the legacy project of this foundation, which basically all this movement already with all this attention, this flight had a lot of attention from the people.
Yeah.
And so it was obviously a lot of people from aviation, but also in clean technology, because this airplane was not only just an airplane, it was also a really light airplane using solar power panels on top, all the batteries to carry on the airplane during the evening, and so on and so forth. And so it was really, Bertrand always say, it was really built up to carry a message on clean technology.
So at that time, it was more about like technical and engineering challenges for the team.
It was
right,
and it was a rather big team actually, because they worked for a really long time. They had so we had different places where the airplane was built, and the engineers were some near Zurich in Dubendorf or in Luzern. But it was an engineering huge challenge.
Yeah.
And even not only engineering, but the mission, I think it was overall over 100 people, or 120 something, who carry on this mission to make this flight happen. And the challenge was that this airplane was really big, but really light. It was 2,000 kilo. And basically you needed also sun to make it fly. So when you plan a couple hours flight, it's quite good. But when the longest flight was from Japan to Hawaii, so it was 5 days and 5 nights flight. So that's still the longest flight recorded. And back then, it's hard to find this weather window to carry on this flight and make sure that there's no storm or enough sun and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's great. So it was it happened in 2015 to 2016.
Exactly.
And then all the attention was there. Now the next step was to let's say increase this impact and then deliver this to throughout the world, right? And then am I correct that after that the Solar Impulse label, let's say, started? So can you provide more details about this?
So that's exactly what I was telling you. So back then the mission of this foundation or legacy project was being put in place. How you can, now that you showcase that clean technology can do some stuff,
right,
impossible stuff,
yeah,
how can you make sure, or how can you push this message that it actually exists not in aviation, but in mobility, in infrastructure, in water, in industry, in agriculture, and everywhere, and that those technology not only exist, but they're good business. So they are. It's actually cheaper for people to use them or to people to sell them, and so that's where how do you build up a selection of the solution that is impartial, and that's where the label came up. For the team to build this labeling process and the way it works. So if I give you a bit of detail, so company apply to this label. It's been obviously improved over the years. It looks at the feasibility and the scalability of the solution. So it has to be technically feasible, and it has to be able to scale. So it cannot be just a single problem that it's only single in this place. And so we labeled TRL 6 and above in terms of technology readiness. Then the environmental part is it has to be better than the mainstream alternative. So when you take an LCA, so a life cycle assessment of a solution, you compare to the mainstream alternative. So the easiest things, example is always a combustion engine car versus an electric car, for instance. And so you compare the both, so the construction, the use, and the disposable of the solution, and you see how much, usually carbon equivalent units is it less than the mainstream alternative. And then the profitability has to be profitable for the seller, so it has to be a business.
Yeah.
And then for the user, it has to be the return on investment has to be within 5 years. So the capex can be slightly higher, so on the solution. But what we want to push as a message is that the solutions, are just making a lot of sense in terms of business. Sure. And so that's the way this label has been built, and it's been built to carry this message that the solution existed, and yeah, that's where, and then the challenge was to identify 1,000 of them, and I think this has been reached in April 2021.
You reached 1,000 labels.
Yeah,
in April 2021.
Yes.
So can you give a rough, let's say, division of these, let's say, labels? Are they more into solar? There might be some, for example, water, desalination.
Yeah,
so some other technologies, right? Not only solar.
It's super. So on 1,000, not today. There's 1,500, but it's super spread out.
Okay.
It's a lot in building, a lot in energy. So either generation or just efficiency or grid. A lot in water, a lot in agriculture, and so what we did, but we can talk about it also afterwards. But what we did, we created a search engine called the Solution Explorer, where basically all the solutions are available, and they're available between different type of filters. And so you've got like main categories as you were asking, you know, like this big chunk of building and shelters or agriculture. But you've also, we also always try to build up a system where you understand the application in the value chain of this solution. And so that's a quite interesting way of sorting your solution with tags, obviously, and where the solution is from, and so on. The mission of the foundation is to accelerate the adoption of clean technology. It's not clean and profitable. It's not that we select the best one. It's just that we try to inspire people on this wide spectrum of technology that exists. And so then it's obviously consultancy, company or experts in this little sectors of knowledge to know which one is the best one for, I don't know, district cooling or a water filtration system or something like that.
Wow, very interesting. So the now is 1,500,
yes,
roughly, right?
Yeah.
So probably the companies that applied, they are throughout the world, right? And
there are a lot in Europe.
A lot of in Europe.
Yeah,
from Europe.
I'm actually based in Singapore also to identify or to reach out to other startups and companies elsewhere to diversify a bit this portfolio of label solution.
Sure. And then once you, let's say, get the label, once a company gets the label, so is there like a big network of, let's say, with existing, let's say, companies that got the label, so they can collaborate with them? Do you give more network for them to, let's say, accelerate their business and then increase their profit?
Yes. So I mean, this has always been this big challenge, or how do you bring this value to this label and this network of the people, because it's a fantastic endeavor to gather all this like-minded people all together that are working obviously in different fields, but they all have this same mindset of doing a better product that has less impact on the environment and still doing business.
Yeah.
And so obviously it gives visibility. These labels give credibility to the product, so it's a recognized label over the years now. It gives visibility because you're on our website, and then we do a lot of advocacy type of work with cities or stuff like that. Not to showcase inspiring project or inspiring technology. Yeah. And then we also have like a Slack channel where they interact with, or LinkedIn group or stuff like that. We collaborate with investors, VCs. So one of the projects that's going to be launched is a tool. You push when you're looking for funding, you push your basically pitch to a bunch of VCs around the world and stuff like that. So we always do this type of work. So is it like? So what's important to understand is that you cannot do everything, but we are as an ecosystem partner that has been there for quite some time now. We do, also push opportunities. So there's a monthly newsletter that goes to all the label solution with the main prize competition or this opportunity there and there for exhibition or things like that. So it gives plenty value to all the labeling people.
So, like all these technologies, they have a very positive impact to the environment, to the society, right? So, but how did you start working in this particular area? For example, like what inspires you to work in the field of, let's say, sustainability, development, and then innovation that are designed to change these challenges and then solve these challenges of the environmental issues?
That's a good question. I think so it's a personal question, but I think I have a business background study, so I think it's always been interesting to see how the development of technology, especially in the clean or renewable energy. I think I've always been interested in this field. When I was in high school, I was doing some research project. I've always also been, I think, interested in pioneer people, like adventure people who does, goes to the North Pole for studies or stuff like that, or the big, the big endeavor in this world. And I think I'm part of to this generation where this still makes us dream about to achieve new things, like climb this mountain as fast as possible, or to discover this part, or cross the entire African continent by bike or running or stuff like that. I think it's good, but it's good also when not only the challenge is there, but when it's also bringing something or trying to bring attention on a specific topic or elements. And I think the solar flights back then was something that was really talking to me, because it was an engineering challenge. It was it was something that's been never done, and it was linking to new technology that we as a humanity should develop and use more and more to live in a better world.
Yeah, I totally understand. And when exactly did you join to the company?
So I joined the round the world was between 2015 and 2016, and back then, so the first prototype of the airplane, if he made some flights in Europe, to Morocco. He did an across America mission also, and then the second airplane. So the round the world was supposed to be during the nice season. So April started in April. Yeah. It was supposed to be in 1 year, and back then they had trouble. It took longer for them to do some legs because they were waiting for the right weather window, and they had some doubts and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so I think they got a bit of delay back then, and they had some technical issue where they were not certain on some stuff, and so the flight couldn't be completed in just 1 year. So when he landed in Hawaii, the mission stopped to restart in next April. Okay. And so they basically were looking for some people back then, and I was following this adventure because it was my personal admiration for this project. Right. And so as you do and stuff like that, I apply for a position and reach out on Twitter, and I was following the people who were doing the job and stuff like that, and so it was then. And so I joined, I think it was November 2015, and so I joined. I've always been doing communication and digital communication, so I joined the project with the digital marketing job, where our mission were to be able to let people follow this mission. So there were a bunch of a lot of people, because there were all the video people, and there were lives, and there were a website where you could follow the flights and so on the top of the live with the camera on the airplane, or the talk and stuff like that. So that was a big thing. Yeah, it's very cool.
When you joined, your position was into marketing. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah. So how do you manage for people to follow this flight? Yes. So we were doing a bunch of there were some people doing social media, some websites. We had there were different type of things. So I was mostly working on the website and campaigns and communication. We were connecting people with people. We were doing some sort of podcast, but live with Bertrand or André flying in this airplane back then, which was really fun.
Wow, very interesting.
I don't know, Richard Branson or stuff like that. That was Ban Ki-moon spoke to directly to in the airplane and stuff like that. So that was this type of things we were doing. So, But now it's been a couple of years.
Very interesting. So. And then the Solar Impulse label was created. It also required probably a lot of the marketing type of tools to apply.
Yeah,
to
after
spread.
after the round the world, there were this question of, so we were a bunch of people starting this foundation, and obviously it's a non-for-profit, so there were a question of financing, there were a question of how do you build a project. It's like a startup. It's just your business model is slightly different. Let's say that. So always been slash com slash digital slash tech and stuff like that. And so we've basically built the structure, the digital structure for this foundation to exist. And this label, you could do a printed paper and send it to some people by post and receive your application, and then I don't know whatever. So we digitalized the entire labeling process or the membership process. It was also a mission to so there were different type of. So first it was mostly the tools. How do you build the tools? How do you build the knowledge also inside the company, inside the foundation, to make sure that you're lean enough and you can react quickly and you can adapt. And so we hired a team. We built a team with fantastic competencies in backend and coding and stuff like that, or design front end. And also part of my responsibility back then was how do you go from a project that was really aviation and solar, strong with fantastic reach and fantastic branding, a bit less in Asia, but in Europe it was really good. How do you go from this to another mission or a changing mission? And so we had to place each other in plenty of topics where on climate tech or clean technology topics. So as you say, like green building or water or clean aviation and stuff like that. So it's just a lot of work in creating this awareness, and this positioning, and your digital footprint in positioning is super important if you want your brand to be represented and stuff like that. So there's been quite some work over the years.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Apart from the Solar Impulse label, there is also World Alliance for Efficient Solutions. Could you please give more details about this alliance?
Yes. So back then, during the round the world flight, they've launched a community project that used to be called Future is Clean, and it wanted to gather people around this thematic. And so when the foundation was created, the way it was structured was that there were this foundation who was carrying on the team and promoting the message, and we wanted to create a independent legal structure that was representative of different all the ecosystem. So they were not only innovators or clean technology or startups, but they were also investors and people looking for implementing them, or there were also the promoters who promote all this solution. So it could be media, academia, and stuff like that, right? And so it was launched. The legal structure of this World Alliance was as an independent association was launched, and the idea was that the more you aggregate people around like-minded people, then you can also push your message and push your voice through it. And so this World Alliance for Efficient Solution that was launched. It was launched at the COP in Bern. So I think it was in 2017, I think, if I remember correctly, in Bern in Germany. And today he has around 4,000 members. Just company like-minded people there's an available charter of this alliance, and it's really so we started by this. So we started by gathering people around the community, and then we had the label on top. So we built it in this sequence.
Okay, so the alliance was built,
yes,
and then the label.
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. So, what were the main challenges basically when you're building this alliance and then label, of course?
I mean, it's always the same question, you know. What value do you bring? Why people are joining and stuff like that? When you're doing a new things like in startups or new product, there's always challenges in going through and pushing this message. But I think it went quite well. And digitally speaking, which was interesting, it was that every company in this alliance was creating a profile on the website. So the profile, you know, gain in terms of content, and so names and positioning, and then with this profile, then people could apply to the labeling process. And on top of this, the labeling process is one thing I didn't say before, is that it's assessed by independent expert. So I think there's around 300 or 350 independent experts in those fields who assess the solution on the criteria I was telling you about before. And so we also had to create, all the registration for the experts and stuff like that. So that was interesting. Bunch of work together. I think the big challenge for the foundation was to gain enough momentum or interest for people to join this alliance, and then for people to apply for this label. There's a discrepancy between there's always an issue of time, basically, for startups, because startups, they're looking for new connection and credibility and external recognition, and as you were asking, networking and stuff like that. And so we aim to provide all this to startups, but our way in the middle has been that you need to go through this labeling process, this certification type of process, to make sure that you fit our criteria for us to promote you. And it obviously takes a bit of time, because you have to answer a question on all the criteria, the feasibility, the business model, and so on and so forth. So there's always been this, that has always been our challenge, to bring enough value for the startups to commit to put enough time, and especially not because it doesn't have the value, but just because the startups are running out of time and they have so many things to do, and they are, under-financed, understaffed, and stuff like this, so on and so forth.
For the digital marketing, for example, how do you measure, for example, the efficiency, especially for non-profit organizations? You have a team of digital marketing, and your let's say KPI should be to reach as many people as possible.
Yes.
So that as many startups they can apply. For the labeling, for example, as many investors could become part of the alliance. Right?
Yes.
That's how you started to measure at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously it's a team job, right? It's not only digital marketing. We still have an outreach team, so people just outreaching directly to the people. So you also have to put this in place, like a proper CRM, proper automation process on contacting startup leads and so on and so forth. The digital marketing, or this KPI, is how many startups are members, how many labels do you have, also your traffic on your website. The foundation's basically foundation missions in accelerating this adoption of clean and profitable solution is this inspiring people on the stack. So the more people goes to your website, or see the solution, or see an article, or see a video, and so on and so forth, the better it is. And so obviously over the years, this has, this grew in terms of campaign, in terms of people attention, and I don't know, the website organically does quite some visit, actually. There's millions of visits per month.
That's great.
So it goes big, but it's a really big website today. 1,500 companies, 4,000 members, plenty of topics or things. So
yeah, sure. After some time, the foundation decided to expand throughout the world, and one of the regions is Asia Pacific, basically. And as the representative for Asia Pacific, what are some specific, let's say, challenges and opportunities you have encountered in promoting sustainability in this region?
So I came in Singapore in end of 2021. I had a colleague of mine who went to Washington, D.C., just slightly before, I think in 2019, if I'm correct. The idea was to identify clean technology in this region of the world. Basically, we have a stronghold in Europe, mostly Switzerland, France, but that's our roots. But there's plenty really interesting way of addressing sustainability and climate tech also, further else in the world. And I think coming to Southeast Asia, it's really interesting to see the difference between, being in Switzerland and thinking of sustainability and being in Southeast Asia and thinking of sustainability. And in Southeast Asia, it's really different being in Singapore and going to Malaysia or Thailand or Vietnam or all those places. So I think it's a really good, it's full of challenge. And you were asking, but the challenge is full of also opportunity. I think this region of the world is 680 million inhabitants, so it's 8% of the population in the world. I think it's probably one of the highest growth of, if you take the entire region in the world. When you talk about growth, it's linked to energy consumption. So people consume more energy, consume more goods. They want a better life. And I think it's a different aspect. In Europe, sometimes the sustainability topic is about the question of we consume too much, so we want to consume a bit less, or we should consume a bit less and stuff like that. And I think here, it's not this hasn't reached any here for the moment. This really type of sustainability messages.
Yes.
I think people want growth. They want a better life for their children. They want cold houses in Indonesia, and I think in Indonesia 10% of the houses have AC, and so it's warm, and there probably some ones cold and stuff like that. So he asks a lot of problems and issues. How can you address this without polluting even more and more and more? And so it's interesting to see where the solutions are actually in this region. One thing I can tell is I think more than half of the carbon emission in the region come from agriculture and the loss of lands use, so obviously forests and stuff like that. And so it's interesting to see some climate tech in this field. How do you make agriculture more sustainable in the more nutritive soil, or like less aggressive fertilizer? Or do you instead of using turbine for using some diesel generators, how do you transform with clean energy and stuff like that? So there's so many really nice examples of the startup in the region. How do you manage also all the waste? Is such an issue, the waste in Southeast Asia, all the waste going to landfill or going through in the ocean. How do you value this waste? And I think there's so many nice story and example in the region that have no use case elsewhere, actually. And so those are really the good challenge, the good opportunity in the region.
So how many labels roughly from Southeast Asia currently as a part of foundation?
Southeast Asia, there should be around 40. It's not easy, as I was saying. You got to convince time and stuff like that, and
Right.
overall trust. And our brands is not as strong as in Europe. But there's been quite part of our mission was to identify, better understand the market and who are the actors and how it's working. And so I think we've been able to develop a really good knowledge mapping of all those climate tech actors, and some of them have joined at least the alliance as a member. So this takes only a few minutes, and then they keep on getting in touch with information, and if one day they have more time or the label will find them their way, it's good. So that's good.
Like around, you said 40 to 50, right?
Yeah.
So Okay, so are they mostly in which countries, let's say?
So Southeast Asia is Singapore.
You have more labels from Singapore?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think Singapore startup scene is quite good. You've got
Yeah.
some in Thailand, a few in Indonesia, and we obviously have some in. If you go broader than Southeast Asia, you have some Chinese one, Japanese, Australian, New Zealand. I think it's an interesting place. I think. I think you see the more and more investment also in climate tech. I think Singapore is really want to place themselves on this climate tech scene. So there's more and more startups doing jobs and financing.
Yeah.
Also, it's obviously slowing down a bit now, but the past years, 2022 has been a record worldwide for investment in climate tech. But
Yes.
even in APAC, it was big, big. And there's more and more event competition, so it's good.
Do you get more members for the alliance as well, like
Yes, it's-
investors, not only startups for the
Yes,
right?
a bit, definitely.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, are there any, like, let's say, regional success stories or like initiatives you would like to like highlight, like specific, let's say, companies that they like have been doing well and then they got labeled, and then now they are, part of this, let's say, foundation and
Yeah,
expanding.
I mean, it's always a question of we don't do the job for the companies, right?
Right.
But it's nice to see them evolving along the way over the years, and yeah, I think some are developing themselves in the region. A success story for me was interesting to be able to bring out some competition for instance, from Singapore to our community, or opportunity for event in Hong Kong or in Singapore, having some booths or being like this I think is really cool for the community to have like this wider spread of opportunity in a way. So we've been working on this a bit, and so it's nice, it's good.
Thank you, that's great. So overall, running a non-profit organization is by nature is slightly different than, let's say, other, let's say, for-profit organizations.
Yes.
Right? Non-profit organizations obtain funding from a variety of sources to support their mission and operations. However, a stable income is required for running the organization, and so that it is uninterrupted, right? You have staff, you have team, and you need to have some income at some point. How is the Solar Impulse Foundation dealing with this?
Yeah, so it was not me, obviously. It's more Bertrand and some part of we have a partner relation team. The back during the Round the World, the way it was structured was you were looking for partner. It was not for profit, the Round the World neither, but it was structurally different. It was to raise money with big sponsor, and so you would sponsor and get the top tier 1, top tier 2, or stuff like that. When you run a foundation, what you want to do is you want to try to make sure that you get enough donation from one year to another, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. For
the foundation to continue the work.
Yeah.
And so we got pretty lucky to build quite a big amount of private donors and public over the years who commit to give you an amount of money each year for usually 4 years. And so they'd sign donation contract or partnership. It's a donation. It's not a partnership per se, but it's a partner of the foundation. And so they give this amount of money for 4 years, and then they can renew and so on. So that's the way this foundation is financed. And so this big MNCs, European mostly.
Yeah.
We've got Solvay, who's always been, it's a big Belgian chemical company, you've got banks, BNP Paribas, you've got Schneider Electric, NG, you've got some watches, Breitling, you've got plenty partners. And some are more related to the field, or some are just donating because, the message that carried the foundation and the mission of it makes sense for them, and it's good. And so, that's been built up over the years, and even some public money. So some region in France or larger Scotland has been giving some money. And with them we did some work. With the Île-de-France in Paris, we did some public tender, when you have like public tender people to meet the startups in the climate tech. So we were organizing this like get together type of event, which was really interesting.
So you have big names over there who are let's say donating to the foundation, and then they're definitely driven by the mission, which is like clean technologies, sustainable development, right?
Yeah.
And are these companies who are, let's say, investing, do they collaborate with the companies who got labels? Do you see this kind of collaboration through the alliance?
So part of it has always been, how do you work within this partnership to create win-win situation, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Because one thing is important is that donation is not something where you can has to give a service backwards. It's just we want to work together when we serve each and every one. And there's plenty example. There's some challenges, looking for some solution from company ADO, for instance, who owns a bunch of how do you call this in English? Shops for construction shops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's been, all those big companies create some fairs or some exhibition, or they're looking for. The banks also are always looking for investment opportunity or inspiring new technology or stuff like that. So it's a fun game to play, because you have like all these amazing entrepreneurs who does amazing jobs, and you have like this big corporates who also want to link up in the middle. So there's been plenty good collaboration between all those people.
That's great. So apart from, let's say, businesses, you have also the governments and government, let's say, structures who are part of the alliance, right?
Yeah.
So how do you collaborate with let's say, government type of companies? So business is is different probably than the government. Like companies like for-profit companies.
So Bakytzhan has been going to big meetings, big pub, big company or countries meetings and stuff like that. So this has always been trying to inspire the European Commission and the legislative process. We do also want to work with cities. So last year we started an initiative, so Solution for Cities initiative, where we published in a book 200 implementation story. That is to inspire cities around the world, and now we want to work more closely with some specific cities on some topic. One thing we did in France first, and then in Switzerland with the public, was an initiative called Prêt à voter. So it's, in English, is ready to vote. It's so we asked the startups that has had the label which type of regulation was problematic for them to develop further, and so they have like quite a good knowledge actually of this regulatory framework that are outdated, that doesn't work for the product to being more used or develop more further. And so the team then published this book called the 50 Ready to Vote legislation. It's been given in France to all the legislators, and in Switzerland also this work. And So you inspire people on this different regulation that can be adapted, and it's actually really interesting to see this regulation. It's a advocacy or lobby type of work, and because they are going through this, legislative process work, it's they have like this period of time where they will look at a specific aspect, and so they would welcome different type of opinion to make themselves aware on the topic. And I know that on the 50 in France, 3 of them has been implemented in the law. So was it because of us? You never know which, or where it's not that you can really influence the legislative process, but you can actually, push your message. And when the end is close to what you were advocating for, it's good.
When startup companies, let's say, having some issues with the legislation, some regulations, right?
Yeah.
For example, regulations, they were developed like tens of years ago, which is quite old for the new technologies.
No, yeah.
Then
do we provide this service? Not really, but
right.
but it's always when you join syndicate of a topic, like if you're in the building construction type of topic, you have always syndicate that would carry on your voice. So
yes,
we are one of the syndicate for climate tech who then push at an advocated level and try to influence. And when we succeed into influencing this new legal framework or inspiring business leader or any people, for us it's a success.
Yeah. So basically you are accelerating the, let's say, penetration of these new technologies into the market by helping on both sides, to the government as well. Government, you work with the government, you also work with the startups, which are local, and that's how you accelerate on both sides, right?
Yes,
which is very, very interesting and very, efficient way of making this collaboration happen, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think there's so many up to our society, in this part of the world too, but in Europe the same. We want to try to, we want to do this energy transition, or we want to live in a cleaner world, and we have all this technology that's being developed, but we don't want people to we don't want their quality of life to go down, right? We want to still people to have cheap energy and make sure that they have jobs and stuff like that. Yeah. But there's, in our legal framework or in our way of doing things, there's so many things that are just weird and you don't understand always why it's being done this way. And I think this is fantastic work to be able to try to adapt it and change it a bit.
So you have in the team, in the foundation, you have a specific team who works in this direction.
Yeah, so there's a team of public affairs, which is I think 4 or 5 people. There's mostly in Lausanne. There's one in Brussels, and so obviously there's a work being done in the EU at the EU level, and also directly, with region and cities or countries. It really depends.
Yeah.
And all the big sustainability fair, so the conference on climate and stuff like that.
Southeast Asia expansion is one, and then do you have also towards let's say South and North America, for example?
No, yeah. So the expansion is always interesting as a business. Like if you spread yourself too thin with your resources, it's internationalization is quite a challenge, and even in Southeast Asia, it's not an easy job per se. So in the US, my colleague stopped or changed job, and we don't have anybody in North America. I think it's interesting to try to do this work, and depending on companies' opportunities, and I think we don't have nobody in South America, but neither in Africa, which some are actually really interesting. I think. I think as I was explaining for Southeast Asia, I think Africa or all the global south, they call it nowadays. It's interesting, to be placed there, to be able to represent. It's obviously countries who are going to have a big growth. How do you make sure that this growth will still consume more? And there's no doubt about this, but it can be done in a more cleaner way or really dirtier way. And so I think when you see, for instance, in Southeast Asia, some neighboring countries who does their energy generation in coal power plants, it's a bit of a shame when you see all the technology we have today that are cleaner but also cheaper. And when you build such enormous or gigantic assets such as coal power plants, and then you have to retrofit them, or the ADB or all these people then have to finance the changes and stuff like that. It's just such a waste of money, and so I think it's and all this I think they're like Southeast Asia big city is really interesting, because Southeast Asia, so I was saying before, is this really high growth place, and so this question to sustainability is not on top of mind of people, but they have two things. I think they've the latest IPCC report highlight that Southeast Asia is one of the the place in the world where it's going to have the biggest climate change adaptation impact.
Okay.
So sea rising and flood. And so sea rising, but I think Ho Chi Minh City, Jakarta, at risk, right? And those are not like tiny cities. It's really big cities and stuff like that. And I think also those cities, their quality of life with the air pollution and all the traffic and stuff like that, it's all really interesting. So how do cities gonna evolve to keep on their growth, keep on their security, keep on having a better quality? I think part of it is obviously to electrify a bunch of it, trying to have a cleaner grid. I was in Shanghai about 2 months ago, and I haven't been for obviously. I've been there prior to COVID. It's amazing. You're in Shanghai. I think two on 3 cars are electric. They have like this green plate, so you recognize quickly which one are electric or not. All motorbikes are electric, even like the big trucks, the trash trucks and all this stuff. They're all electric. And
changes are significant, right?
I mean, I'm not saying that it's the perfect solution, right? But it's better than combustion engine by far, if you look at LCAs and stuff like that. But your quality of life in the city is just like, there's no noise, there's no gas exhaust and stuff like that. It doesn't solve all the, particle and stuff like that. But your quality of life is really fantastic, and it's impressive to suddenly go in a city in the same times that we live in, and see such a difference in technology implementation, and this is fantastic. I think.
Yeah, and definitely those things could be done in other cities, right?
Oh yeah,
which are under, let's say, as you said.
But Singapore, for instance, it's interesting because Singapore is the perfect use case for this.
Yeah.
And so I only came here 2 years ago, and I'm not at all going to criticize what it is. But what I've been told is that Singapore's always been having the same way of managing things. It's either they really manage something and they do it super properly, either sometimes it's just putting a bit aside and waiting for the right moment to, really take care of this problem. And they're going for electric, EV charging tenders right now, last year's and stuff like that. And they're just going to put some electric, charging points all over the city. And as soon as they change their probably COE attribution and subsidize and stuff like that, it's gonna go electric in like the inflection point is gonna go crazy. And you see this also in the adoption rate in countries where suddenly it was like 2% of new vehicles were electric, and some year on year it's like 12 and then 18 and then it's just non-stop. Yeah. And I think when those technology reach this point, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So overall, the climate change is like bothering everybody all around the world.
Yeah.
But actions that has been taken is not so far maybe efficient, but the messages are there. We need to become more sustainable. We need to move into a new type of technologies which are much more, let's say, energy efficient, less pollutant, and so on.
Yeah.
In the history, the whole humanity did very good, let's say, collective
Yeah.
achievements.
Yeah, yeah.
For example, one of them is like the adoption of the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer, for example, on September 1687.
Mm-hmm.
So marked a turning point in environment history. So it demonstrated that when science and political willpower come together, they combine efforts can change the world. Their
Yeah.
combined efforts can change the world. Can we apply a similar approach to address global warming? And in your opinion, what are the main, let's say, problems that need to be overcome to solve this kind of global warming challenge?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm not sure I'm the biggest expert on the topic, but
Yeah.
so the ozone agreement is obviously a huge success because it's prohibited the use of certain gas that depreciated the ozone, and now it's being recovered. And I think Australia and France are rather happy with the ozone getting better and stuff like that. But I think it's COP28 this year in Dubai, being held in end of November for two weeks. There's been huge trust, in this organization, the Paris Agreement in 2015. The COP21 was a non-legally binding agreement, but at least they got everybody who want to work together. And all this talk, I think you've got to be positive about all these talks because actually it's bringing up people all together. If depending on who you're listening to, a lot of energy company, who does mostly energy on oil, gas, and coal, whatever, are the more and more involved in this, process. And they are having a hard time to, get to an agreement, right? They are always reworking on this agreement or what they want to do and stuff like that. What I read, so this year in Dubai, chairman of the COP comes from oil and gas background. Is it good? Is it not good? Is it gonna be moving forward or not? I read yesterday an article in Cypher, which is the media of Breakthrough Energy, where apparently the US is really advocating on, I think they want to triple renewable energy production worldwide by 2030, which is good. They want to include nuclear in this. So this is not, the foundation is not advocating for nuclear, but at least it's a clean energy. And I think they want to at least ban, or there's always this question of trying to ban coal power plant, or at least the new construction of coal power plant. And so, it's what's scary for people working in this field is just like it takes too much time. All this process. And I think it's interesting to be sure that any little win on win and stuff like that bring people to the right direction. Obviously, our world today is not going to the right direction, right? We are still consuming more and more energy. It's not decarbonized energy, not only, but the rhythm of implementation of those new renewable energy are fantastic. And especially here in this region, I mean, Vietnam has been implementing solar energy crazy. There's wind project. China, I think China this year is going to implement more solar power generation than the entire US ever installed in their history. So in 1 year, which is completely crazy. And so there's some good aspect out of it. But we are, I don't know, we are almost 9 billion inhabitants now. I think our consumption of energy is like 40% more than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just insane growth. And
so hopefully, soon we will be like efficiently solving all these problems, not in specific areas, but throughout the world.
I mean, I think if you start by just, the basics, so just not doing some really dirty power energy elements, and you start to stop subsidizing some really dirty things, that's already the first steps, right? And,
definitely.
And there's so many aspects out of it, and I think technology-wise, there's really technology that has reached the market that is super, that has been in this inflection point where for consumer it's better, it's cheaper, and everything. And there's some technology, or there's some sectors which is much harder to decarbonize. How do you make clean steel, or how do you make clean cement, and how do you make clean aviation and stuff like that? There's technology being developed, but still for the moment much more expensive.
Yeah. So how do the foundation's, let's say, efforts align with global climate goals and initiatives? And then do you like constantly adjust depending on the, increase of the adoption of these technologies?
Yeah.
You can see that there's a lot of technologies are coming into the market which are clean and sustainable. And then you see a lot of changes in overall in the world. And then maybe foundation needs to align its let's say some tasks.
Yeah.
Depending on the maybe depending on the region, depending on the progress of that specific let's say area, or how has been done so far.
But so the foundation focused on the technology on the variety of SDG, we call it, on clean water and affordable energy, like all those programs from the UN. And then the topic of the COP has been obviously evolving over the year. It's interesting to follow the trends and the trends, I think, and the trends and the academia around it also evolve over the years. So we go from, for instance, clean tech to climate tech. Is it the same scope or not? There's also a lot of talk about biodiversity and or all the notion of measurement, and suddenly you have also different actors in the topic, the companies. I think you were asking me about the COP. Is it the way you go for climate change or sustainability, this conference? And I think that's definitely, if they can reach a worldwide agreement, that's fantastic. What you've seen over the years also is big MNC or company, it was not really part of their main topic, and the big one nowadays are really starting to go through this process of what is my footprint as a company. And so there's been a lot of really interesting way of measuring all this what's my footprint with the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. And I find it really interesting to see this way of evolving. And I think this whole measurement from MNC requirement is basically scope 3 is every people who just provide you the services or uses of your services, and so it suddenly goes down to the value chain of those big MNC. And I think it's really interesting. If they're serious about it, they will start in their purchase agreement or their to ask any provider in their value chain to provide or their understand what their footprint, and then trying to get them better and stuff like that. And I've personally have huge trust in, if this goes this way, it's fantastic, because suddenly, I don't know, you're big MNC and you're doing some whatever, I don't know, closes. Suddenly you have to disclose how your closes are being made.
Right.
And there's all those questions and fantastic climate tech startup in traceability and the way, how do you measure this? How do you go from this information to the next one? I think this is really good. I think Asia will get is starting now, but it's going to get more and more the pressure of being able to understand what are their footprint and then how do you get better on it. And so it's a fantastic business opportunity then for the climate tech to, find their way in helping this company to reduce their footprint. So you've got a manufacturer in Singapore. How do you get your footprint better? You're not going to change your your grid. So the grid is still going to come from gas power plant mostly. But you can use less fuel, or you can change your provider. You can insulate better your buildings. You can have better efficiency, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So as you pointed out, for example, these large companies who are now moving towards sustainability, they will drive basically because they need to show, as you said, with whom they're collaborating, where they're buying this kind of, let's say, raw material or the part of the technology of the system.
Yes.
And then they have to make it at some point transparent how they're building a sustainability overall.
Yes. And the scope 3 framework is being worked on. It's not really clear for the moment how the company is going to address it. Mm-hmm. And it's so complicated. Like if you're a bank, then you finance people. So everybody who finance gets into your scope 3. If you're oil and gas provider, everybody who's using your oil or gas is in your scope 3. So there's no way an oil and gas company can really reduce their scope 3. But it's such an interesting question, the way it's being put. And I don't know if you're a computer manufacturer and you start having and you measure your scope 1, scope 2, which is good, this is the science, or the academy is quite good on it. But then the scope 3 is much interesting. Your provider and stuff like that, and how do you close your value chain or avoid having a computer to make twice the round of the world because it's manufactured there, stored here, ship over there, and stuff like that. Some crazy stuff.
Yeah. So for the foundation, what are the next, let's say, big steps that planning?
So currently there's this different action. There's a big exhibition in Paris on the solution for cities that is being held at the Science Cité des Sciences. It's called. It's a big museum in Paris. There's this World Alliance for Efficient Solution is organizing a summit, which hasn't been done for years now. So this is going to be a big summit to bring all the members together. And it's on the 13th and 14th of November. So it's going to be very soon, or it will just happen depending.
Is it regularly?
No, I think the last time we did was 5 years. It was at the launch.
Before COVID, probably COVID was stopping to organize these meetings.
Yes. No, not really COVID, but it takes a lot of time and resources to organize such an event, and it's always a question of what's your priority in the company and stuff like that. So we wanted to bring people together, also to advance more how you can bring value, help them, and so on. There's obviously the COP28 in Dubai, which the team's gonna attend, and we are launching a new product called Runway, where I was saying all the label solution can, if they're looking for some fund, then we promote their search and their pitches towards our investor community. So you can really, it's quite an interesting tool even for investors. So basically you put, two parts together. So climate techs are entering their stage if they have already had seeds or Series A, and they're looking for a Series B and their pitch and stuff like that. And investors have access to a database of climate tech actually looking for funding. So
Right. Yeah.
we'll see how it goes, but it's a nice product, and
So it's called Runway.
it's called Runway.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
yeah. So the investors, are they venture capital firms, companies?
Mostly, yeah.
Oh, mostly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did two collaboration with venture funds. Actually, we co-launched two venture vehicle, the foundation. So one with BNP Paribas, was investing in late stage companies. So
Starting from Series A, you mean?
yeah,
Late stage.
yeah, more series, series A, B, stuff like that. And there's a buyout also project with a French bank called Rothschild.
French bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So this interesting project where how do you collaborate more with VC funds and stuff like that, and then we also collaborate with plenty independent VCs, or like the big names and stuff like that. So it's cool.
Yeah.
And as a non-for-profit, you would basically offer them data or deal flow and stuff like that. So it's cool. It's interesting work. And then there's plenty things in the pipe. Not everything's I'm able to talk about. It's still being thought of and stuff like that. But that's for the short perspective.
Yeah. Are the founders of the foundation, let's say, are they trying to achieve something? Let's say another extraordinary technical challenges, like they flew around the world.
So there's always this question. It was the good thing with this project type of adventure is that it capture attention.
Yes.
One thing that is a bit sad is that when you have all these entrepreneurs who does climate tech or does the new materials, and then you talk to people and people are like, oh, it's boring. But then if you do whatever big adventure, big thing, then you capture attention. And it's interesting to be able to capture attention to then, show light or showcase, others' achievements.
Yeah.
And so there's always this question of, new project, but there's nothing that has been publicly, launched and stuff like that. So,
are there any other, let's say, non-profit organizations? Let's say, is there, for example, if you think about like startups or any other companies for profit, there's always a map where you can see the landscape of like competitors, basically.
Okay.
For the non-profit, does this exist, or how do you measure?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure with competitors. I think you work together for this, so it's easy to collaborate with people on this topic because everyone wants for this topic to move further, right?
Yeah.
And there's fantastic people who does more market research type of. They're usually not for profit. They're profit, market research firm that are doing fantastic work on climate tech. Certification, we've always been a big fan of the B Corp movement. They've always, it's really different than what we do because we only look at, climate and on the solution level. They look at the company level and the fact that it goes in the right direction for a better world. There's so many, what can I talk? All the competition, all the events, all the academia is so good. And media, so there's so many media podcasts placing themselves on this topic, and it's always nice to talk with. And some have different business model. I don't know, next week in Singapore, you're going to have the Hershot Prize, which is the prize that has been launched by the royal family in the UK. And so they started to give some money to awardees, and now they have like a bunch of more categories, and they are coming to Singapore to do the ceremony of the awardee. And so it's a big prize, and they're doing a fantastic job. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of some VC who does great communication and inspire people. I'm a huge fan organization who lobby also. There's different type of work. So.
For the closing end, Jeremy, what message you would like to send to the audience, to the listeners, and then of the podcast, basically?
Oh, I think the foundation has always been trying to push this message that it's not a boring problem. Sustainability. There's actually fantastic entrepreneur technology that we could look at it to have implement the solution. Spend less money or at least have better impact. The website of the foundation called solarimpulse.com is full of resources. And if you dig a bit in there, you suddenly, start enjoying discovering new solution or reading some report. And I would really encourage people to just go and look at the explorer of the solution or go through the solar solution for city initiative, where you can really, showcase, see all the implementation of this solution. I think it's just, it's just really inspirational, and that's basically what the foundation is work has been doing, is meant to be. So it's I would suggest to do this.
Yeah, definitely. We welcome our, let's say, audience to go and open the website, the digital platform of the foundation.
Yes.
And see how amazing projects has been done, and then have been done, and how many ongoing projects, how overall the foundation and the digital platform of the foundation is moving towards the sustainability. I think I personally myself, I went through the website a few times.
Okay.
It's very interesting, and I see a lot of positive things are going on in the foundation overall.
Well, it's not in the foundation; it's in the world.
In the world,
yes,
throughout the world.
It's encouraging to see that,
Yeah.
Because it's a weird world we are living in, and we've got to see, we've got to look at it in a positive way. And I think there's so many people doing some really positive work.
Yeah. So I personally wish to the foundation to have more labels, so that there will be a lot of companies developing cool technologies, sustainable solutions for the environment, for the planet Earth, basically.
Yeah.
So and then I'll be happy to if there is a time, if opportunity to visit any other events that's coming in the future. So Perfect. So anything coming in this region? So in future,
organizing not yet, but maybe it will come. It depends. There's for the moment we're more going to people's event or bigger structure.
Sure.
As I explained before, I think Singapore or the region has quite some startup scene, especially in startup and sustainability scenes. It's good. So especially Singapore. So.
Yes.
But if we organize a get together with the members and stuff like that we've been doing, we've been doing some in Singapore, in Hong Kong, and stuff like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's
for
great.
the moment. It's not planned.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you,
for your time.
I think
we had very interesting discussion, and thank you for your time, and then good luck in your future projects, in your works, also personal, as well as the foundation works.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.